For this week's project, we're going to build these 4 castle turrets and or towers together using some of the techniques from last week and some of the techniques from this week's 3D modeling intro. And then I'm going to ask you to take these turrets or other turrets of your own invention and build a castle. So we'll get to the castle after the turrets. So let's start with the turret. So we're going to start with the simple one first. I'm going to move all of mine out of the way. So this one we're going to be basically just doing some extrusion and some solid addition. So I'm going to first put myself into one of the isometric views, and then I'm going to draw a circle. I'm just going to do it at the center here, as that'll make some things easier later. So I'm going to tab and make this a 4-foot radius and return twice. Then I can use instant push-pull to click and drag up, and I'm going to tab again, and this time we're going to do 12 feet. Return. All right, so that's the base of the turret. Then we're going to start drawing the top part here. So I'm going to draw a circle again. This may seem familiar from last week's project. Making sure to use automatic working plane so that I'm drawing my circle on top. I'm going to draw this circle. I'm going to tab, and this is going to be a 5-foot diameter circle, and return twice. Then I can use instant push-pull to pull up, tab 24 inches, return. So far so good. Now we're going to draw the battlements that go on top here. So we're going to draw yet another circle. Using automatic working plane here on top, we're just going to draw this circle right on top of the existing cylinder rather. Now we're going to use the line tool and automatic working plane again to draw a line. It doesn't really matter where you put this line, but I drew it from the center to one of the automatic points on the circle. Now I'm going to lay out radial lines. So in order to do that, I'm going to modify, not true, I'm going to edit duplicate array, and I want a circular array. I want 24 lines, and I'm just making all these numbers up, by the way. There's nothing magic about any of these, just so that we can all have the same turret. But in order to get the one that I previously drew, we want 24 lines, which means that we want to make 23 duplicates because the first line counts. By the way, if I didn't say this, we're doing a circular array. So 23 duplicates, and the angle between the duplicates wants to be 360 degrees divided by 24, because we're going to have 24 different pie slices, basically. And then what I want to do is center this on the next. I want to center this right here, and I want to be able to click my mouse there, and you'll notice this is grayed out and it's not going to let me do that. The reason for that is in order to be able to use next mouse click as the center point, I have to be in top plan view, which I'm not right now. So I'm going to cancel this, and I'm going to go to top plan, and now I'm going to try again. Edit duplicate array. It should have saved all of the settings that I previously entered, and it did, 23 and 15 degrees. Now it's going to let me use next mouse click. So I want to make sure to check that, and I want to make sure that rotate duplicates and use duplication angle is checked. So then when I click OK, if I click here, it will create the array around the place where I clicked. And you can see that they are there on top of the circle. And I'm going to go ahead and select the first original line. When you duplicate array, it selects the duplicates that are made automatically. or they stay selected actually. And then if you want the first one, you have to reselect it. And then I also want to select the circle that we originally drew on. So I'm going to hold down Shift and select it. So I should have 25 things selected, the 24 lines and the circle. Now I'm going to do modify clip surface to cut that circle into pi wedges. And the lines are all still selected, so I'm going to hit delete to get rid of the lines. The original one will still be left, but it's a little hard to get to, so we'll get rid of that later. So now I have 24 pi wedges. I'm going to delete every other one. It doesn't matter which one you start with. I'm going to start here, so I'm going to delete every other wedge. So I should be left now with 12 wedges. Now I'm going to draw yet another circle, starting from the center here. It's going to be difficult for you to set the automatic working plane to the circle itself, because it's going to want to select one of the, oh, look at what happened. It's going to want to select one of the pi wedges, but that doesn't really matter because they're all in the same plane. So we're just going to click here at center. Ooh, maybe it does matter. Oh, that's because I was on the oval tool, not the circle tool. I do that a lot. Let's try that again. With the circle tool this time, we're going to come out, we're going to tab, and we're going to go 4 feet. Return. Now, with the circle selected, I'm going to hold down Shift and also select the 12 pi wedges. Make sure that I have 13 things selected. Now modify clip surface. There we go. Now if I hit delete, that gets rid of the circle, and you'll see, remember I said this line was still there, so there, now we can actually see it and delete it. So hopefully you'll see what's happening here. Now I can just select all 12 of these and do model extrude. We're going to go 24 inches. And then with those selected, I can select the base disk here and just do a model add solids. And there we have the first simple turret. There are a couple of different ways I could have done this. Instead of creating the 12 pi wedges and extruding them, I could have created one and extruded it, and then use duplicate array to create 11 duplicates of it. So they're almost always more than one way to do pretty much any operation that you're doing in Vectorworks. If I want to add this all together, I could do add solids just to make it all one solid piece, I can. So there's the first turret, the simple turret number 1. Going to move this up and out of the way. Next, we're going to work on the purple turret here, which has a slightly more sophisticated shape because of the angles. So this, we're going to do some sweeping and 3D subtraction. So just so I can see what size this is as a guide, so we're looking at 2 feet 9 by 18 feet 6. Okay. So in front view, if you'll draw a rectangle that's 2 feet 9 by 18 feet 6, I'm going to insert it by its bottom center, although it doesn't really matter. So this is going to represent the right half of our turret. And like I said with the last project, I'm a little bit just making these shapes up, so I'm not going to give you specific numbers here, but I'm going to start at the top. We're going to angle in slightly. We're going to angle in a little more. We're going to come down to here. gonna angle out a little bit, and then a little bit more over to here, and back up to there to finish it. So a shape inside the rectangle that looks something like that. Then I'm going to delete my rectangle, and I'm going to sweep, model, sweep. You can probably leave all of the defaults, although this segment angle is set really low for some reason, so I'm going to just change that to 5. All right, so let's check and see. Does this seem like that's about the right shape? Yeah, the bottom on this one is up higher, so if you want to fix that, fortunately this is easy. You just double click or use the reshape tool, and we can just pull this up if we want to. Like I said, it doesn't necessarily have to match exactly. This is about the process, not about the final product. Okay, so the reason I went up to the top here, rather than stopping right here and adding on the battlement parts, is because since this is angled, using the same technique we used with the last one becomes more difficult. It becomes difficult to extrude these at an angle if we were to do the same thing that we did with the last one. You can do it, you can do a tapered extrude, but I have to figure out what the angle is, and it's just more difficult. So instead of doing that, what we're going to do is create the negative spaces and subtract them. So it's basically the same process, just we'll be using solid subtraction rather than solid addition. Let's see how many of these there are. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, 12. So we're going to use the circle tool to draw a circle on top. And then we're going to draw our line from the center to somewhere. We're going to switch to top plan view. And then we're going to do a duplicate array. So edit, duplicate array. This time we want 11 because we want there to be 12 pi wedges. So we're going to do 360 divided by 12. Certainly, if you happen to know the number, you can write it in. But the great thing about any of these dialog boxes, any of the measurement dialog boxes in Vectorworks, is that they'll do the math for you. So if you can do addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. If you don't know the actual number off the top of your head, we can leave everything else the same. I'm going to click OK here. Yes, please. And then following the same process we used before, I'm just going to put myself back in isometric so we can see what we're doing. I'm going to select all 12 lines and the circle. So I've got 13 objects selected. I'm going to modify clip surface and then hit delete to get rid of most of the lines. And once again, we're going to delete every other pi wedge. Then we're going to draw a circle in the middle. 1 foot 9 seems good. That's just what I happen to land on a point here. You can really enter any number you want. This time I'm not going to subtract the circle because I actually, from the pi wedges before I do the extrusion, because I actually want to subtract the circle from the tower. So I'm just going to select all of the parts here and do model extrude. I'm going to extrude down 2 feet. And then simply select the tower and the shape we just drew and do a model subtract solids. It's going to ask me to highlight the solid that I'm subtracting from, which is highlighted. If yours isn't, you can use the arrows to select the right one, and then click OK. It looks like this is okay. Like I said, there's really, this is just about the technique, but it doesn't quite match the other ones. I went down too far. So if I want to fix that, fortunately, this is really easy. If I just double click here, it will take me back inside my solid subtraction. I can select my original extrude and change it from an extrusion of -2 feet. Let's try -1 foot. Well, that doesn't look right either. I'm going to try -18 inches. Let's see if that does it. That might be closer. And then I can just exit my solid subtraction, and there we have it. It looks like probably a foot was the right number. But at any rate, the point here is you can always go back and edit it. I need to actually select that if I want to rotate around it. So, and I could even go back to the very beginning if I wanted to. I could double click on this, and then I could go back and edit the original shape. Now, if I did that, if I made it bigger here, then the subtraction wouldn't work, so I'd have to go back and alter the subtraction. But the point here is there's memory to these things. You can always go back and alter them. So that is tower number 2. We'll add this over here to our collection. Up next is our blue tower. The construction of the blue tower is very similar to the construction in the purple tower. There's only one difference. The purple tower is cylindrical and the blue tower is octagonal. So we can't use sweep in order to create the octagon, because sweep will only create a smooth round effect. Now, those of you who are paying attention to the sweep command in the previous video might remember that you can set it to have larger segment angles, and you might wonder, why can't you just do that? So I'm going to duplicate this, Command or Windows D, and pull it over here out of the way. Double click to get into it, and double click again to get back to the sweep. So if in fact I were to change the segment angle to 45 degrees rather than 5 degrees, and then look at this from the top, you will see that it is in fact now octagonal. Except that if you look at the lighting, it doesn't sort of register as octagonal from the front, particularly if it's still trying to make it into a cylinder, just a cylinder that's very badly segmented. So depending on what you're doing, sometimes you can use the sweep to create a segmented object, particularly if the angle is very high. Like I set this to 90, it should end up being a square tower. You can do that, and it sort of works, but you see it's still trying to light it as if it's round. So there's a better way to achieve what we're trying to do than to make the segments of the sweep really high. I'm going to put that back to 5. What we really want to do with the octagonal is, instead of doing a sweep, we're going to draw the profile, and then we're going to use an extrude along path with a closed path. So let's draw our right hand side again. I'm gonna do a rectangle that's, this time let's make it maybe 4 feet by 18 feet 6. You'll notice it keeps the numbers from the last time. So we'll insert that. We're going to use our 2D polygon tool, and I'm just going to make up a shape here just to demonstrate the method. All right, there's our shape. That was step 1. Step 2, we're going to delete the rectangle. Step 3 is we need to create our path. So we're going to go to isometric. And right now the working plane is set to the front, basically. And what I need is the working plane to be on the ground. So there are a couple of ways to do that, but the easiest way is just go back to top plan for a minute, and then go back to isometric, and now it should be reset. You'll notice the pink plane is gone. So now I'm going to choose the regular polygon tool set to 8 sides, and I'm going to use the inscribed mode, although it doesn't really matter. You could use the inscribed mode or the circumscribed mode because the size of this octagon makes absolutely no difference. The only thing that's important about it is that it starts here at the center, and I want to be in automatic to make sure that this is drawing on the ground, basically. So if I start here and draw the octagon, it doesn't make any difference how big the octagon is, as long as it's contained within the shape. It can be super tiny or it can be big. I'm just going to go to the center, but it doesn't make any difference. So then I'm going to select the octagon and the profile, and I'm going to do a model extrude along path, making sure that fix profile is selected. So telling Vectorworks that I want the relationship between the profile and the path to remain as they are now, and then I want to make sure to select the path. So make sure that the path is red, and then click OK, and there you have the octagonal main part of the tower. Then if we want to do our battlements on the top, we can just use the regular polygon tool again. We can draw an octagon here. We can draw our line. How many of these are there? I think there are 24. Seven, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. Yeah, I think 24. Let's see if that works. So top plan, edit duplicate array, 23, 360 divided by 24. Next mouse click. Okay. So we can get rid of that one and that one. That one. So all the ones that go to the corners can go away. Then you can select, going to go back to left isometric. Oh, everything just, oh, this is a good point in time to talk about this. This is the fit to page area. If you get lost and click on that, it will take you back to the origin. So if you're working anywhere near the origin, that's helpful. So I'm going to select all of this and then do modify clip surface, and then hit delete. And then I'm going to get rid of the ones that go to the corners. And we're going to draw another octagon. Like that. I'm going to select all 9 polygons. We're going to do an extrude down. All right, shall we try 18 inches again? Oh, that went up, which is why suddenly it got weird. Minus. There we go. Then select that extrusion and the main tower and do model subtract solids. And of course there's that one line that's left. So we'll put this over here out of the way. Our final tower is this fairy tale tower, which is in fact the simplest of them all. It's really just a sweep. So let me measure the height of this. 36 feet. So I'm going to draw a rectangle that is 36 feet tall and 3 feet wide. And let me just say the rectangle is totally optional. I find it easier to draw within a boundary. And this is just because I'm trying to make the ones I'm drawing here vaguely similar to the ones that I had already drawn, but you don't need to draw this rectangle. What you really need to do is use the 2D polygon tool. I just find it easier to draw inside the rectangle. But so I'm going to start a roof here, an angled roof, and we're going to kind of angle back to there maybe. I'm not necessarily trying to make this match exactly. Back to there. I want the roof to curve a little bit, so I'm going to go to the reshape tool and use the add a curve function. I'm going to click here and I'm going to curve that a little bit. Then I think there's like a post on top of the tower, so I'm going to draw that. We're going to add a little ball to the top of that and a larger ball there. I need to only have those be half circles, so I'm going to draw a line and then select those and do a modify clip surface, and then hit delete and get rid of those. And then I think I want maybe a curve here. It's like a medieval gutter or something. I don't know. So anyway, you can see the point. You can just keep adding shapes until you have what you think you want. Then I'm going to select it all and modify add surface, and then simply do a sweep. Model sweep. My original one was better, but at any rate, you see the point. If I wanted to make this less like the Space Needle, I could go back and edit it. The way I ended up with the blue roof on this one is I looked at it and decided I wanted the roof to be a different color, so I duplicated the tower and went back in and edited. I cut the tower in half, and then in one of the copies I just deleted the bottom of it, and in the other copy I deleted the top, and then I made the top a different color and stuck it on top. So that is the sweep method. So what I'd like for you to do with these turrets is to build yourself a castle. And you can be as simple or as complicated as you want. You can build a cartoon castle, you can build a quasi-realistic castle, you can build a just bizarre castle, you can build a humorous castle, whatever. The only requirements are it needs to have 4 towers, it needs to have walls connecting the towers, and it needs to have some way to get in, a door or drawbridge or a gate or something. You are welcome to just use these turrets, pick 4 of them, duplicate them, add some walls between them, and put in a door. You can use the methods that we used here to create your own turrets. That I encourage you to use some of the tools from this week's lecture. So here's the deform tool. You could let's see. If you want to make a wacky castle, so play around with that. did the taper surface tool. You could add detail by adding more extrusions or doing some extrudes along path. Earlier today, I did this sort of let's go to front view, semi-realistic turret based on the picture of this real castle. This is using just all of the same tools that I just showed you. It's extrudes and some extrudes along paths and some adding and some subtracting. And this one obviously has a texture on it. We haven't gotten to that yet, but so don't worry about the texture. Feel free to add colors if you want. But really, this is just an exercise in using the tools that we've learned so far and being as creative as you would like to be. So once you've built your castle, and you can see here I made one really quickly by just taking the previously built turrets and using a tool that we actually haven't talked about yet. We'll just talk very quickly about the scale tool, modify scale objects, where you can make things bigger or smaller. So to make something bigger, you make the number larger than 1, and to make something smaller, you enter a number smaller than 1. So 0.5 would make it half as large, 2 would make it twice as big. That's scale objects. That's how these towers ended up being different sizes. But at any rate, once you finished your castle, then you should use the same techniques that we used for Project 1. So create, if you want, a ground plane for it or not, that's optional. Put in a Vectorworks camera and fine-tune it to create a perspective view of your castle, and then viewport that to a sheet layer, and then we're gonna use the same RenderWorks style we used last time, whiteout. Only we're gonna make a slight alteration to it, because it will, unless you have a really dark castle, it will probably end up really washing your castle out. So what you want to do before you do the final render is open the resource manager and open RenderWorks styles, find whiteout, right click on it, edit it, go to lighting, and change environmental lighting from current background to none, which will keep all of the white light surrounding the castle from lighting up the castle too much. And then just click OK, and then you can render the castle. You might notice that this rendering has black lines drawn around the objects. Vectorworks in the viewport gives you the option to have a background render and a foreground render. And here in the foreground render, I just have hidden line turned on. Hidden line is the render style that just basically draws the outlines of the objects. So if you want to experiment with that, you can just use all of the default settings. The smoothing angle, the default is 1. This keeps the program from drawing all of the individual facets of rounded things, so I usually bump it up to somewhere between 50 and 70. So you might want to change that to 50, but everything else you can just leave as the default, and then update. You saw the hidden line there very briefly, and then do a publish. If you are, I know that some of you have computers that are not able to handle some of the rendering modes, so it's fine if you can't use the whiteout, if you just use OpenGL, which hopefully all of you are able to do. It's almost the same. It's not, the quality is not quite as good, but that's fine. You might want to, if you're using OpenGL, you might want to set the detail as high as your computer will allow you, and then probably turn draw edges off if you are also using hidden line, because that's sort of doing the same thing twice. Let's render this. Yeah, there we go. So either whiteout with the environmental lighting turned off or OpenGL. Either one is acceptable. And this week, please turn in just the PDF file. All right, happy castle building. I'm really looking forward to seeing what you come up with. I'll talk to you next week.